and welcome to Python Speedruns with me, Mr. Denton. I'm starting on the next section, which is section 4, and it's called for, okay, for series. And it's interesting if we look at this first challenge, because it sounds like a really simple challenge. It says, given two integers, whole numbers, A and B, where A is going to be less than or equal to B, print all the numbers from A to B inclusively. That means if you put 1 in and 10 in, then you want to print out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now it sounds like a really simple thing to do, but actually, you know, if you try and do that with standard code, whoops, and it actually turns out to be quite a tricky thing to do, right? So if I'd say, okay, I need to print A to B, right? So if I print A, that's going to work, right? If I print A plus 1, yeah, I can print A plus 2. I can print A plus 3, etc., right? And I can keep going. So I can run that code, and if I type, let's say if I want to type 1 and 3, it's going to print out 1, 2, 3, 4, because A plus 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 2 is 4. Sorry, 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 2 is 3, 1 plus 3 is 4. And I've actually printed out, I put in 1 and 3, and I've actually printed out 1, 2, 3, 4. The problem with this is how many lines of code? Okay, because I could type in any two numbers. I could type in 1 and 1,000, and it would need to print out 1,000. If I needed to print out 1,000 like this, I would literally have to print out A plus 3, A plus 4, A plus 5, A plus 6, etc., etc. Okay, it just gets too unmanageable. So we need a way of doing this simple thing that is simple and that allows us to go from one beginning point to an end point. Okay, so what I could do is I can use a for loop. Now, the way for loops work in Python is you need to declare a counter. Okay, so in this case, my counter is called I. And then you need to use the range function. The range function will generate a list of numbers from one number to another number using a stepping function. So if I want to go from A to B, and I want to step in one whole jump each time, yeah, then I use for I in range A, to the beginning point A, the end point B, and the stepping function, okay, or the number that we want to move by, okay. And if I print I, then what a for loop does is it loops, and each time it replaces I with the next number in the list that's generated, okay. And if I run this, you'll see what happens. So if I type in 1 and 4, if I type in 1 and 4, it should loop from 1 to 4. Now we see the first problem that we have in terms of this challenge, not in terms of the range, but in terms of this challenge. So range does not work the way we need it to for this function. It goes from A to B, but not inclusively. It does not include B. Okay, so we will have to add 1 to B to get it to work. So if we run that again, if I go from 1 to 4 inclusively now, it goes from A, which is 1, to B, which is 4, but we have to add 1 to it. So it goes from 1 to B, but not inclusively, up to but not including B. So we've got to be careful with that. So that prints that out, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we can do this. Range has a default, okay? So A defaults to 0, okay? And the step function defaults to 1, okay? So if we say for I in range B plus, yeah, then it will just loop from 0 all the way up. I'm just gonna refresh my page. So I'm just copying my code before I refresh, because sometimes it gets lost and I don't want it to happen. Okay, so if I run this now and I type in 1 and 4, it loops from 0 all the way up to 4. Okay, So we do, for this problem, we do actually have to put in A. Okay, so if I put in A, comma, B plus 1, and I run that, then I can put in 1, I put in 4, and it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the other issue we have just with this problem is it actually wants the output all to be on one line. Now, there's a couple of different ways to do this. I can make a string like this. So I make a string variable called out, and I just set it to an empty string. Okay. Inside the loop, then, what I can do is I can build up my string. So each time I go through the loop, I'm going to say out is going to be equal to itself. So the first time round, it's going to be nothing. I then need to add it to another string, which is going to be I, my counter. I could just try and add I to my string and then add a space on the end each time. Okay, and if I run that, okay, I'll try and do that from 1 to 4. There's a problem because I is not a string, it's an integer. I'm trying to get two strings and stick them together, but actually I is a number. So I've got to use the string function to convert that number to a string. And now, if I run that, okay, it's glitching again. Python's glitching a lot this morning. Must be a problem with my internet, I think. Just going to refresh that. Okay, so now if I run that, hopefully, I type in 1, I type in 4, and inside my loop, out is getting the next number and sticking it on using this plus function, and it prints 1, 2, 3, 4, all on the same line. Now that's perfect. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is to use the end function inside print. So what I can do is I can print I, and then I can say I want the end of my print to be a space. You see that? So inside my print, rather than just saying print I, which would print I on a brand new line every time, I say print I, comma, with an end as a space. And now when I run that, and I type 1 to 4, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, because with the end as a space here, I actually print this next one on the same line. So two different ways to do it. So I have to choose which way I'm going to do it. I'm actually going to do it with the print end function, and just do like this. Just call a blank print function at the end. Hopefully that should work. Run that. Okay, glitching this morning. All the glitches. Make sure I copy my code. Make sure I refresh it. Okay, run that. So 1, 4, and Bob's your uncle, Francesca's your uncle's girlfriend. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. Okay, so we learned a little bit about the for loop with the range function that generates a list. And we learned a little bit about how we can use the print function with an end argument to print things on the same line separated by spaces rather than on different lines. Now we can make end anything we like. So if we don't want things separated by spaces, if we want them separated by stars, we can do that. We can run that. So we can put anything in there we like, and it will build up a string just like that for us. But for this problem, that needs to be a space. So I'm going to put that back to a space. Run that. I'm going to do it like the example. So 1 and 10. Pop that in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Submit that. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's all going to work. Okay, and that was it. That was the introduction to for loops and the range function and a little bit about the print function with me, Mr. Denton. I hope that's useful.